And now, everyone, it is time that we are going to go and cap off this episode with the grand finale. And on this grand finale, we're going to go and talk about something that, honestly, it's been a little while since we've had a discussion about this. The box office. I think the last time that we would go and talk about some record-breaking numbers at the box office or how things have been there, I think it was like just a few months ago talking about Noja 2 and how that ultimately became the new highest-grossing animated feature of all time, not to mention also becoming among the top 5 highest-grossing films in history so far. So yeah, like, it's been a little while, but I think now it is the time that we are going to go and come back to talk about it. I know that technically there hasn't been a new animated feature out in a while. I mean, technically the next one is going to be Pixar's Elio on June 20th. But in this case, however, movie theaters are pretty much making a big comeback, especially with audiences just piling up theaters. Like, I have heard in which there have been some theaters in which they had to kick people out because now they have been sold out in terms of their screenings. Like, they were like in over capacity at that point. And that means that so far the business of movie theaters have really been booming. And it's all thanks to the 2 new features that came out on Memorial Day: Mission Impossible Final Reckoning and the Lilo and Stitch remake. And not only did they do extremely well, but they have been breaking box office records. Some that might be a little bit small, and some are actually pretty impressive for what they have done. In fact, let me just go over here. If we check out what happened at this week's domestic box office run during the Memorial Day weekend, and by the way, just to let you know, what I have here is just on the 3-day weekend between May 23rd and May 25th. So, if you look at the numbers over here, the one that is taking the lead, of course, is the Lilo and Stitch remake, making an impressive $145.5 million just on that 3-day weekend alone. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it now broke the record of having the biggest opening of the year so far, because I believe a Minecraft movie still had a little bit more compared to what Stitch just did, but still very impressive numbers right over there. This is then followed by Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, in which that has earned $63 million. Then followed by some of the older movies, including Final Destination Bloodlines, going down to $19.65 million. Then followed by Thunderbolts, in which that got over $9 million, and Sinners, in which that went down to just under $9 million. Now, if we look into the numbers specifically, especially with the bigger, with the new movies that just came out, they started off very strong. So let's begin by checking out Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And these are so far estimated numbers, by the way. And also, just on a side note, the box office numbers that I'm reading you here, they're from my source on Box Office Mojo. And when it comes to The Final Reckoning, if we do include the 4-day weekend, if we include Memorial Day itself and how much it might actually go and make, as you can see here, the total that Mission Impossible has made is $77 million domestically, $127 million internationally, which so far made a big Memorial Day opening of $204 million worldwide, which I believe might have broken the record for this being the biggest opening ever for a Mission Impossible movie. Now, rather if it would be like, if you include like some of the older films and adjust it to inflation, I'm not 100% sure, but so far, it looks like The Final Reckoning just took that record. But then you got the big one, Lilo and Stitch. And so far, It's already huge in movie theaters, and that is actually the one in which movie theaters had to go and kick people out because they sold out their tickets and they couldn't go and give people more tickets to go and see the Lilo and Stitch remake. So in that regards, on top of just the 3-day weekend making 145.5, if we look into how much it has made in total, including the Memorial Day itself, if we add that to the 4-day weekend, then you will see here that the domestic total that the Lilo and Stitch remake made is $183 million domestically, and then you add 158.7 million internationally, in which from there, it created a worldwide total of $341.7 million. So already, on top of making more money than the original Lilo and Stitch movie, which I'm specifically talking about the 2002 film, and I don't think that would count in terms of like adjusted for inflation and stuff like that. But either way, not only did it make more than the original film that it is based on, but it has also broken the record for having not just the biggest Memorial Day weekend opening, but also having so far the biggest Memorial Day weekend. So this is pretty much a big deal. And I mean, this is the kind in which movie theaters are now facing new problems, but these are the kind of problems that they want to go and face. It's now with the fact that movie theaters are just busier than ever because people are excited to go and check out these new movies. And I will say right now that honestly, the timing with both of them, it turned out to be like, they nailed it very well. Not just on the factor that it is Memorial Day weekend and taking advantage of a holiday where people have a lot more free time so they could go and actually check out the movie. So a great opportunity. But what's actually very clever and what's a really smart move for both Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch to come out is that they're able to be released at the same time, and they don't have to compete against one another. Like, yeah, sure, Lilo and Stitch got a lot more of the upper edge against Mission Impossible, but still, though, they can both do very well in their own right in a very similar style to Barbenheimer, in which they don't have to go and compete for the same audience in particular. Like Lilo and Stitch, they're aiming for families, they're aiming for kids, and they're aiming for people who are nostalgic of the original 2002 movie, while Mission Impossible is aiming more for the Mission Impossible fans and for older audiences who want to go and experience action. So from there, like, these are two movies that they can live with each other in harmony. They don't have to worry about them competing against one another or like eating each other up because they're not aiming for the same audiences, which explains how they're both doing very well in their own right. Like, yeah, sure, maybe Lilo and Stitch, even though with Lilo and Stitch, it's making more than double than what Mission Impossible has done, at least domestically. But still, though, that doesn't mean that, like, one is better than the other. From there, like, they're both doing very well in terms of their box office run. But specifically, if we do look into the Lilo and Stitch remake, I think it is safe to say that you could pretty much see everything in which, where is it that Lilo and Stitch did right, where the Snow White remake went wrong. Because number one, Lilo and Stitch is still immensely popular, or at the very least, a lot more popular than Snow White. Like, Stitch is still this massive phenomenon in which people are still buying like tons of merchandise. People are still going crazy for like the nostalgia of Stitch, whether it be for like the original film or for the series or for what have you. Like, there is still a lot of massive love for Lilo and Stitch. And especially now that it is considered a nostalgic property, that is a massive bonus right there. So already, Stitch's popularity is already far greater than Snow White. So already Stitch does have the advantage. But at the same time, there is another factor, and this might be controversial to say, but Stitch didn't fully alter its narrative as much as the Snow White remake. Like the Snow White remake, what they did, it's almost like an entirely different movie. Like it's honestly at the point where it's kind of hard to go and consider it as a legitimate remake because there are very few traces where it actually does resemble like the original Snow White, at least in terms of like things that are beyond like the bare basics of it. But with the Lilo and Stitch remake, I would say like about 80% of it is about the same as the original with some changes at the same time. So from there, you are getting what people are asking for. It's basically a remake of the original. And from there, I know that is a controversial subject and people are very divided on this, but those who want that, they'll be happy with it when they do come out. And that's also another major aspect. It's the word of mouth. And I'm sorry to say this, and I know people will be upset with me by saying it, but it's been very positive. At least if you don't look exclusively at what the internet says, because many people are coming out and they are loving it, that they got exactly what they asked for in terms of a Lilo and Stitch remake with a lot more new flavors of the kind of shenanigans in which Stitch would go and get himself into. Like, they got what they asked. Like, maybe there aren't people that, you know, they're not necessarily full on loving it per se, but they're not coming out like hating it or, you know, they're not saying that, no, it's not worth it. A lot of people, if like, for those who want to go and watch, for those who want to go and check out the Lilo and Stitch remake, they're happy with what they have gotten. But with that said, though, speaking of reactions, this is also something that I want to go and like talk about something else, honestly, because this needs to be brought up. It's in terms of those online reactions, because at the same time, while audiences are enjoying it, the fact of the matter is the internet despises it. Like, oh my God, when people want to hate this remake, like they are freaking going ballistic. They are enraged by this remake. And like you can already tell in which like there's already like you get those usual groups of people that you would expect that they would go and talk about it and that they're negatively going after this movie. You know, there's already a bunch of those cartoon reviewers, or you know, there's a bunch of those YouTubers with their cartoon avatars ready to cross their arms and tell you of how much that movie is a piece of crap. You know, there's already a bunch of those that are set and ready and already a release to go and spread that hate. But the wildest thing about this, like the thing that for me feels like is very much insane, is the fact that why is it that they're hating it? It's just on the matter that it's just another remake. It's not necessarily, you know, like the rage and the hatred for it is not necessarily because of anything that is like the Snow White remake, in which it is connected to a bunch of real world issues or a bunch of like actual social issues related to like racism, misogyny, and there are traces of political factors like with Israel and Palestine and maybe some Donald Trump as well. So there are those things, but then with the Lilo and Stitch remake, maybe there have been a few controversies that did happen in the past, but they were not as strong as what they were with the Snow White remake. So really, the whole reason why people are so enraged by it is just on the matter that it is another live action remake. And so literally, it's just on the matter that the movie exists is enough to throw all their hatred for it. And honestly, I don't think I've seen that level of hatred just on the existence of a movie alone since Wish. And what I mean by that kind of hate, I mean the kind that people are like doing whatever they can in order to go and make a massive smear campaign against this movie. It's almost like they hate this movie as if Stitch team, like they hated like Stitch somehow teamed up with Vladimir Putin on the attacks against Ukraine. And yet people are really going out of their way to portray this as like the worst movie of the year as much as possible. Like desperately trying to make it look like Hurry Up Tomorrow is more worthwhile than the Lilo and Stitch remake. Like literally, like, and I'm talking about stuff like flat out spoiling the movie, like to put in all the little details of the spoilers to go and portray it as like the live action remakes are like the worst things to happen to our society, that it's trash. Look at the way they changed Nani. Look at the way they changed Jumba. Look at the way they changed the ending. Like, they're really going insane and ballistic. And honestly, I cannot help but look at all these intense reactions. And I have to ask, where is the fine line where people would have to go and say, when is a movie just a movie? Like, where is that line where you gotta say that you cannot cross it so that you could go and say, like, okay, you know what? It's not worth enraging over it. It's not worth being this intense, mainly because of the fact that, it's just a movie. There are worse things out there in the, that's happening in the world. Like, I'll save up my anger for any actual issues. A live action remake existing is not one of them. But the funny thing is that despite all their rage and despite all the, despite like trying to force out a negative word of mouth, the thing is that it's clearly not working, especially when you see people coming out in theaters actually enjoying it. And not only that, but having the Lilo and Stitch remake do record-breaking numbers. Like, we're pretty much at the point that it is obvious that the Lilo and Stitch remake is going to be a hit. It will be successful and it will turn a profit. And there's also an extremely good chance that it's going to make over $1 billion. So not only will the Lilo and Stitch remake make its money back, but it could simultaneously also make up for the lost costs make up for the money that they lost on the Snow White remake and then some. Like, it's going to be at that point in which it is very successful. And yet, it is not going to stop the people from being so angry. In fact, its success and people loving it is like fueling their rage against the Disney live action remakes. Like now, like they feel so justified to go and like spread out spoilers, to go and like demonize this movie, and basically to get so riled up and so upset over the existence of the live action remakes and using the same arguments again and again and again and again and again. But this time around, they think that somehow being more loud and being more angry they think that somehow, like, maybe that can work. If they just repeat the same things, except if they get more enraged, maybe people will suddenly go and listen to them. Which I will say right now, no, it ain't. In fact, the funny thing is that I remember during the weekend, I actually made a post that indirectly called out this rage and the hypocrisy of the internet. When that, like, as much as they want to be respectful when a new movie comes out, saying like, okay, everybody, make sure that you don't go and put out any spoilers. Some of us are excited to see this. But when there's a movie that they hate that comes out, they're just going out of their way to be like, spoil it! I want this movie to fail! Ruin it for everybody! Make it as bad as possible so that Disney loses money! I will not be happy if this movie succeeds! Like that kind of insane attitude. So like, I indirectly called that out. But just today, oh my God, my feed, like I saw like on my Blue Sky feed, it turned into freaking Cirque du Soleil because the freaking mental gymnastics that people are performing, it is just crazy to see people trying to justify their toxic behavior just because it's a live action remake, just because it's another one of Disney's remakes that somehow seems to be okay to go and encourage toxic behavior, to go and continuously attack the movie at any cost, to try to go and ruin it for everybody, to go and try to portray it as like the worst film ever, and to desperately do anything they can in order to go and make that movie fail no matter what. And at that point, like, if it really is the case that people are justified to somehow behave so terribly and to promote toxic behavior just because it's a Disney remake, what's the next step, huh? Now that your tactics have failed, that it's a guarantee that the Lilo and Stitch remake will become a hit, what are you going to do next, like to go against the Lilo and Stitch remake? Are you going to be attacking and bullying people who like the film? Like, if you see somebody posting like a positive review, are you going to be attacking them just because they don't share your same opinions on hating the live action remakes and not portraying them in such a negative light? Or are you going to go and like, at this point, are you going to go and harass the actors, including the little girl who played Lilo? Like, are you going to take your hatred of these live action remakes and are you going to go and take that next step? Because honestly, based on the rage that I've seen against the Lilo and Stitch remake, I feel like that could be the next thing that they're going to go and do. I mean, clearly, it seems to be all free game if they're going to go and hate on the Lilo and Stitch remake. And there doesn't seem to be any lines to go and cross if a Disney remake is involved. So at that point, I can imagine those people would not go and hesitate and take that extra step to go after the little girl who plays Lilo. What's her name? Maya Kealoha. So I'm just saying, like, and if you're gonna go and deny it, if you want to go and prove that there is a line somewhere, I'm just gonna say maybe there's a line that you've already crossed way too far. And the thing is that I want to go and try to highlight with all this, and keep in mind, by the way, I'm not trying to go and take anyone's opinion on the remake, okay? I just want to go and make that clarification. If you have seen it and you don't care, if you have seen it and you disliked it, or if you hate it, that's perfectly fine. Now, if you, like, my only problem is, if you have not seen it and you want to join in on the hate bandwagon and criticize it and attack it, then honestly, no. That's when you're becoming an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. I've actually seen, like, I've unironically seen at least one person, and maybe there might be a few who actually do think that they've never, that they said that, oh, I don't need to see the remake in order to criticize it and in order to hate it. I'll just look at these video reviews of it, and that's enough to say that I've seen it and that justifies my hatred for it. And in that regards, like, nah, dude, honestly, no, you're making yourself look like a complete idiot. But anyways, as I was saying, if you have seen it and you didn't like it or you actually hate it, that's perfectly fine. That's okay. You can have your opinion on it. And I understand that, you don't like this trend of the live action remakes. I'm not a fan of the live action remake trend either. And I'll even say now, even though I got my review coming up, I have some of my personal problems with it as well. I didn't like the way they changed Jumba, and honestly, the way they changed the ending, not really a big fan of it. But even at that, though, honestly, I feel like the way people are reacting right now to the Lilo and Stitch live action remake, it is becoming more and more of a detriment to their argument against the live action remakes. Because right now, the way that they are behaving, the way that they're letting out their rage against it, they're pretty much acting like sore losers. That they're being extremely petty of the way that they're just flat out attacking Disney and the live action remakes and this movie and what have you. That they're just so petty with the way that they're attacking it, just on the factor that it is a Disney live action remake, that they think that somehow it gives them a pass to do all the toxic behavior that they want. And yet at this point, with the way that it's becoming a fail, the way that, like, their manufactured negative word of mouth, it's already failing. And now you see the Lilo and Stitch remake, it's becoming like now it's like highly popular and it's already beloved by most fans. You can already tell that those people who are really hating on the remake, like there is a like they're acting out of fear. And they know for a fact that hating on the Lilo and Stitch remake, and I'm not saying just disliking it, like full on hating it, they are the vocal minority. They know that it is an unpopular opinion to say, I hate the Lilo and Stitch remake because because it's another live action remake and it's soulless and it's all that kind of stuff. They know they know that it's an unpopular opinion. They know that it is unjustified. And they know that the way they've been trying to explain their reasoning for it, it is cringe. And that's why all they've been doing is just doubling down on their fury. And it's just making things worse because they're making themselves less and less worthy of being listened to. That their opinion just doesn't matter. And that regardless of how these live action remakes are, whether it be like the Lilo and Stitch remake or the Snow White remake, watching those are more pleasant to experience than listening to these petty self-entitled losers on why the live action remakes have been bad and reusing the same explanations for years and years and years and years. Like, it's really at the point where they really are losing their own battle. And that's why I'm trying to say this as a warning that you have to be more mindful about your behavior and maybe even be a bit more compassionate towards those who actually do like it. I mean, how else can you explain why these live action remakes are still popular and why there are actual people out there who are excited to go and see this and that they come out enjoying it? You have to realize that is the reality. But if you're going to be stuck in your own little mindset that these live action remakes are evil and it's only acceptable to throw your hate at Disney, then honestly, you're just going to flat out fail. I mean, this is the whole thing. Like, this is exactly why. I know I brought this up a few times before, but this is exactly why the Disney hate feels like it parallels more and more exactly like how I was towards Sony Pictures Animation. That people are not learning the same mistakes of what I was doing, and now they're doing it again towards Disney, and now it's really starting to bite them in the ass. That really, they're just becoming a lot more of a joke, and that no matter what problems the Lilo and Stitch remake has, watching that movie is a lot more desirable than actually listening to these people. All right, so there might be a chance, I'll warn you right now, that maybe at this point, there might be a commercial that might go and occur during the middle of this. But again, I don't really have a whole lot of time left. So I'm just going to go and do it right now. And I will go and ask you all, what do you think of the success of the Lilo and Stitch remake? And especially in terms of the reactions. And if you have seen the Lilo and Stitch remake, what do you all think about it? All right, so let's see. I have yet to see the Lilo and Stitch remake, but will see it tomorrow as I was out of town for the weekend. But I have seen the last Mission Impossible movie, and it was good, but not on par with their recent films. It is a pretty big deal for this record-breaking Memorial Day weekend, given Tom Cruise and Stitch are trying to save movie theaters, regardless of criticisms of their respective films, unlike Minecraft. But this is good for theaters. Glad I made it back to the episode. Hey, I'm glad to see you back, dude. Even though it could be just temporary. I mean, hey, it's always fun to see some familiar names return. All right, so let's see. I actually did Barbenheimer type of screening of Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible. I would say that I actually thought the Lilo and Stitch remake was pretty decent, and that CG Stitch looks pretty good. While the final Mission Impossible movie was a great send-off to the saga. So yeah, I had a great time last week watching the two new films. This summer is going to be big. Also, a friend of mine did work on this movie who's good friends with Charlie the Film Snark. Ooh, awesome, dude. Let's see now. This is definitely a big win for movie theaters. With Lilo and Stitch, I don't think it's a surprise given the popularity of the original, and it's more nostalgic compared to Snow White. Not to mention all the marketing that was poured into it. Stitch can literally fart out money whenever he pleases. And it's a guarantee it will most likely make over $1 billion at the box office. Also, I'm looking forward to your review of the movie. Yep, that's going to be coming soon. In fact, I'm just going to be teasing this right now, but I feel like eventually down the road this summer, there's going to be a question, and I want you all to think about this. Will the Lilo and Stitch remake make more money than the 2019 Lion King remake? I feel that's going to be a very fascinating discussion that eventually we'll have to get into. Anyways, what other comments do we have here? Just want to go and double check. Oh, you know what? Someone literally called themselves Stitch. So let's go and do this. With the huge popularity that this remake is receiving, that a potential sequel is at least in discussion, I won't be surprised that Disney would like to turn the live-action Lilo and Stitch into their version of Paramount or Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog movie series, like bringing in popular elements with characters like Dr. Hamsterville and the other experiments like Angel, Reuben, Leroy, and Sparky into live action. What do you think about that, Matt? Honestly, I've heard those discussions, and I feel like it is most likely. Especially, I'll even say this. This might be minor spoilers, but there was a point at the end of Lilo and Stitch, or during the climax, they did actually do a little bit of an Easter egg or a reference to some of those experiment characters. Like you see a little bit of Angel, and you see a little bit of Sparky and stuff like that. So I'm sure that's going to be happening in the future. Let's see, what other comments? Let's see. I did not see the Lilo and Stitch remake, and I don't feel like I'm in the mood of seeing it, especially Jumba's character's assassination, but I'm surprised that it did really well financially. I'm sure it'll be a huge hit in the long run and to help pay for the losses of the Snow White remake. That's all I could say, so I don't know about you, but I'm turning 22 this Saturday. Ooh, happy birthday, dude. Or at least happy early birthday. But yeah, the thing is that if you don't care about the Lilo and Stitch remake, if you don't want to go and see it, then don't talk about it. Then just don't go and watch it. Instead, instead of focusing your attention on throwing all your hate on the live action remakes, why don't you throw your attention to be more supportive towards other films that need it? Talk more about Mission Impossible, or talk about your hype for other movies like K-pop Demon Hunters. Try to do something else. Like, give out more positive energy so that people can actually listen to you instead of acting like a self-entitled brat when hating on the Disney live action remakes. I'm just saying, cool down your anger, because people don't want to listen to angry people. Let's see now. What else? Okay, fun fact. Both these movies were released on my birthday. I didn't see Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, though my mom is interested in watching it since she is a fan of the franchise, but I did see the Lilo and Stitch remake, which I thought was really fun. However, the hate for the remake feels overblown, especially with people hating it without seeing it because it's a Disney remake. Seriously, go watch it first, then put out your own opinion. It's not that hard. Yeah, exactly, man. Honestly, it's the kind of, seriously, as I said before, you have to watch it if I'm going to take your opinion seriously. If you think you're justified in, I'm not going to watch it, but I'm going to criticize it and attack it anyways because it's a Disney remake. No. Don't know. All you're doing is making yourself look like a freaking idiot. Okay? Nobody listens to angry people, and nobody listens to freaking idiots. Nobody listens to idiots either. Just go. Okay, I know some people might some people might do a counterpoint because people are listening to Donald Trump, but the point is, I'm just saying, at least on my end, if you're not going to go and put up the energy to go and watch the movie, then you have no right to actually go and talk about the movie as if you have seen it. No, watching a couple of video reviews on YouTube is not enough to say that you have seen this feature, okay? No, you don't actually know how things are with live action remakes as much as you may think it is. Let's see now. What other I think I only have time for one more comment, and then I'll be out, actually. When it comes to the Lilo and Stitch, hate, it comes a bit too much. I've been hearing more hate on the film on Blue Sky of all places, which in that case, AniMat, I think you have gained a monkey's paw by saying Blue Sky is better than Twitter. Social media is a mistake. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how things go with that, honestly. But hey, Congratulations to the team who made the Lilo and Stitch remake on the massive success, and congratulations on the Mission Impossible team for your new success as well. And we'll see how it goes, how big the popularity will be, or at least how big the success will be in the summer.